The Hurry Free is one of the best tanks at tier 10, but how is the rest of the line? In this video, I'll be going through each one of the tanks starting at tier 5 and telling you whether or not the Hurry Free is worth the grind. Starting out with the Hony Free at tier 5. Now this tank is your typical tier 5 tank destroyer. It has a very good gun, it has more than good enough penetration, and considering that it's tier 5, actually this penetration is really quite good, especially if you consider the premium rounds at 194mm of penetration. The HE maybe not so much, but I mean still, at tier 5 you could probably find a fair few people that you can actually pen with 40mm. But as I said, this is your typical tier 5 tank destroyer. It doesn't really give you much and you can just grind through it without too many worries. Remember, this is at tier 5. The XP requirements are not that much. There is a few things to note, however, on this tank is that even though it looks like it has a turret, this does not have a turret. It does, however, have a decent gun arc at 5 degrees either side. The other kind of maybe thing to watch out for is that it only has -5 degrees of gun depression. Everything else about the tank is very nice though, apart from maybe the view range, but at the same time, it's about average for what you would expect at tier 5. 40 km/h top speed, which means that it's more than fast enough to get around the map and into position to snipe. And you have a more than good enough accuracy as well. This is insane accuracy considering you're tier 5, where a lot of the tanks are still very derpy around this tier. So overall, I actually really like this tank. It's pretty nice to play and just to snipe with. And I don't really see many people complaining about it, especially as it's tier 5. It's really not going to take you long to grind through. So to give this tank a rating, let's give it, I would say, a solid 7 out of 10. The reason being that it's not a 10 out of 10 vehicle is that it's just your average, but maybe a little bit more than average tier 5 tank destroyer. Definitely doesn't do anything bad, but it definitely doesn't do anything outstanding other than if you include the DPM accuracy and stuff like that. But I think that the rest of the tank kind of draws that back down from being like a 10 out of 10 vehicle to being about a 7 or so. Next up, the G-Row. Now, this tank is such a weird vehicle because, one, it just looks insanely funny. It's like a... If you've ever been in the tube in London, it honestly looks like one of them. Not only does it look funny, the exhaust is at the front as well. Like, this is the exhaust right here. So it's a very strange looking tank, and it's also very deceptive because you may look at this and think, wow, it's got a 40 top speed. Nope. This will never, ever reach that top speed because the effective terrain top speed is 27 on hard. And that means that you are never really going to see 30 km/h in this vehicle, let alone 40. And because it's a low tier vehicle, you would want to have optics or maybe binos in combination with vents and then a gun rammer, which means that you can't necessarily put a turbo on it. Sure, you may be able to put binos and then turbo gun rammer maybe, but even then, it doesn't actually make up for the fact that it has such terrible terrain resistances. You might as well just put something else on it other than the turbo, because you're never going to increase that top speed. To show you what I mean, we're going to head over to tanks.gg, which is a lovely website that you can see all the tank statistics in the game. If you've ever wanted to see what the hidden stats are of a tank, this is the website to go to. As you can see right here, the top speed is 40 km/h. However, if you look at the effective top speed, you'll see on hard, medium, soft, on hard terrain, it is 27.12. And that is the maximum you will see unless you are going down a hill or diving off a cliff. And even then, it probably still wouldn't go above 27. It's just that slow. But now switching over to the effective values, let's go ahead and put on all the cruise skills. So we have off-road driving. That's going to increase the effective top speed. We then go ahead and put on food. We'll go and put on vents. We'll even put like bounty vents for this. And then if you were to go ahead and put on a turbo, you would go to 34. Not 45, but 34. Now, for some people, that may seem absolutely fine, and you want to do that. In my opinion, though, it's not worth adding the 3 extra km/h that a turbo is going to give you, because that's actually, in reality, what it's going to give you. Now, of course, you can go ahead and choose the left-hand fill mod, which is going to help you out greatly. And then, the turbo is pretty good, actually. You're going up to 39. However, there's a big issue here. You don't get field mods until you fully unlock the tank. So that means that if you're just grinding through the vehicle, you will never get access to field mods. Because you're just going to be on this vehicle and then instantly moving up to the next. So field mods are kind of out the question. Which then just makes you think, well, you might as well just do what I said and just do rammer, and then you can choose whatever you want, right? I personally will go and choose like bounty optics and then get that view range up. However, you could go ahead and use binos. And obviously, we've been speaking about bounty, so let's go ahead and just put on a normal gun rammer. Let's go ahead and put on just a normal turbo. And then we'll say binos, for instance. That means you have more than enough view range. You go a little bit faster. But that's still, in my opinion, that's just not worth doing. Like, you go at 32. Whereas you could just do vents. You knock off 2 kilometers an hour, but then everything else is better about your vehicle. So I think that this is a real stinker of the line, to be honest with you. And it's actually kind of a little bit painful because the rest of the stats about the tank are actually half decent. You have very, very good alpha damage and you have very, very good penetration. If we go ahead and actually just look at the gun here quickly, you have 300 alpha with 175 pen and then 220 premium pen as well. The dispersion isn't awful and the aim time isn't awful either. So it's a real kind of, I wish it had a better top speed or just mobility in general. And considering this tank has absolutely zero armor, it kind of is a little bit sad that it is so slow. So the Giro, what do I rate it? Like a 5 or even a 4 out of 10, to be honest with you. It's just too slow. It's just way too slow to really do anything. So I'd say, yeah, you know what? 4 out of 10. I wouldn't even give it a 5. 4 out of 10 is what I would give this tank. But you know what's not a 4 out of 10? When we move up to the Cheeto SP. This machine is absolutely broken. I have no idea what Wargaming were sniffing when they made this machine. They took the tier 10 268 V4 and just went, what if we brought it down a few tiers? We basically made it a mini V4, stuck it in the tech tree line, and they went, yeah, we'll say it's Japanese. That is how this tank was made. And I'm pretty sure you're going to realise just how ridiculous this tank is once we read through the stats. This vehicle, it has a gun which is better than most other tier 8s. This has 320 alpha, 205 standard pen, and 244 premium pen. But the premium pen, importantly, is AP rounds, which means that it has a much better normalization value than APCR, and it also won't lose as much over distance. And honestly, I think the best way of actually showing you this vehicle is just to show you again on TanksGG, because it's actually, it's almost comical how overpowered this tank actually is. 40 top speed. And yes, this is actually 40 top speed, as you can see, both on hard and medium, 40 kilometers an hour. Soft, you don't need to worry about. This stat one, don't worry about it too much. This is only in swamp environments. But if we went and maxed this out, just have a look at the rest of the stats as I'm going through this. Right? Let's say that I want to use it as, I think that it's fast enough. We're going to use vents. We're going to put rammer. Obviously, we're using bounty here. And then you go ahead and put on hardening, right? Because this is a tank destroyer. If we then go ahead and add on the field mods as well, it just becomes ridiculous. 3000 DPM with 0.29 accuracy, 1.8 second aim time, reload time of 6.2 seconds for 320 alpha. If we then go ahead and use on the premium AP as well, you get 244 pen with that 6-second reload time and 320 alpha. It is ridiculous. And that's all while having 441 meters view range and 37% camo. And because of the field mod in combination with hardening, you also get good track health. Remember, this is tier 7. This can see a tier 5. A tier 5 is genuinely going to take about 4 shots sometimes to track this thing. Just once. And then once it repairs it naturally, because of the hardening, it goes back to full health. This thing is absolutely broken. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, gun stats and the rest of the tank stats are all one thing. What about the armor? The armor must be weak, right? Remember how I said it was a V4 at tier 7? What is that? 250 millimeters thick, which means that people have to load gold against you. And remember, this is against 205 pen. Most tanks at tier 7 are not necessarily going to have this much penetration. They'll have less. They'll maybe have 180 or something like that. And maybe their premium round will be 220, 230. This having 250 is basically a tier 8 vehicle dropped down to tier 7. And if we do have a look at it, you can shoot the cupola. Yes, 100 millimeters thick. Good luck hitting it though, when it's wiggling left and right, jumping backwards and forwards, bouncing, and then it's still at the same time shooting you with 3000 DPM. It is a nightmare to deal with. And it is actually unbelievable that Wargaming still haven't nerfed this thing, because it is genuinely a tier 8 vehicle at tier 7. And hell, this would be a half decent vehicle if it had a little bit more hit points at tier 8 as well. So the Cheeto SP, absolutely broken. 10 out of 10. Literally just 10 out of 10. If you do bad in this thing, you are the issue. You can't blame anything else, because this tank is just that OP. Progressing on to tier 8, we have the Hori 2. And in many ways, this is not an awful tank, but because of what you've just come from, it feels like an absolutely massive downgrade. Straight away, you're actually down on DPM. However, you are up on alpha damage and also up on pen. You have 285 premium round, which again is AP. You also have absolutely fine accuracy. The aim time is a little bit longer, but at the same time, you have a little bit more alpha, so kind of explainable. However, you are a lot slower, and I mean a lot. You are now at 30 kilometers an hour, which going from 40 in the Cheeto SP, and now you're dropping a whole 10 kilometers an hour, feels very, very slow. And the armor of this tank, in many ways, is also a downgrade. Because if we go ahead and look at the armor model, you'll see that right above this, in this cyan color, is an overmatch for anything above 105mm guns. So if someone sees you, they can just load the AP, or APCR, or whatever it might be, apart from, obviously, heat and stuff like that, that wouldn't overmatch, and they'll go straight through that area right there. Which then makes the rest of this armor completely irrelevant. And if you actually have a look at the armor, you'll see that it is much the same as the Cheeto SP, which is a tier below you. In fact, the armor is worse on this vehicle, because if you look at the hull, which is a very, very big hull, it's all the way down to 220. So it really does beg the question, are you actually upgrading when you do this tank? I'm sure it's not all bad, Max. What if you just fully load it up? Well, it might not be awful, but it still is pretty bad. Because although 2.8k DPM, no one's going to say this is awful for a tier 8 tank. Absolutely not. And the reload time is good, the aim time is decent, the dispersion is fine. I would like this to be going down a little bit more realistically, but it's okay. And the view range, it's a tank destroyer at the end of the day. It's not going to have anything exceptional. Also, obviously, it would be really, really nice to put hardening on here to get that track health up. However, we don't have the field mod, and we also don't have the survivability slot, because we wouldn't be using field mods if we're just grinding. So I might as well just use that and just leave it how it is, and then boost up everything else. And besides, in this tank, I would not be comfortable going on the front line at all. This is more of a support tank destroyer than something that would sit on the front line. But the biggest thing that kills this tank is the top speed. 34 kilometers an hour is the maximum you're going to be able to get to if you're just using standard equipment. If you are using Bond, let's say that you go all out for some reason, 36 is the maximum. And I'm sorry, but on a tank that has such limitations elsewhere, that is just pathetic. And do you know what the biggest kick in the face is? This is the Carry, which is the premium version of it at tier 8. And it's just better in every way. Even if I'm not using field mods on the tank, which you would be because it's a premium tank, it has more alpha damage at 500. It has better DPM. It has better dispersion, better aim time, better top speed. Everything about this tank is just better. The only thing that it's not better at is the camo rating. However, that is only 7 better on the Hori 2. So this vehicle is just weird, to be honest with you. It's like the G-Row, but now at tier 8. So far in this line, we go from okay to whatever, it's tier 5. It's actually pretty decent. It's way too slow, and I wouldn't recommend it. Absolutely broken, to then just being, again, way too slow. I wouldn't really recommend it. It's such a weird line. So to give the Hori 2 a rating, it's going to have like a 4 out of 10, to be honest with you. It's just not, it doesn't have the characteristics that you would want in a tank. In comparison to pretty much every other tank destroyer, this is somewhat lacking. It doesn't quite have the 490 alpha. It has 400 alpha. But even then, it doesn't really have excellent DPM in comparison to, say, some other tanks like the Carry. And the fact that you've just come from the Cheeto SP really doesn't make this any better. So again, just like the G-Row, I'm going to give this like a 4 out of 10. I don't think this is very good, to be honest. Moving up to the tier 9 and the Hori 1. Straight away, up is your alpha damage by a lot. You are now getting 650 alpha with amazing 290mm of pen for the standard rounds and 325 for the premium rounds, both of them being AP. You have more DPM. You have a little bit better accuracy, but not by much, and the aim time is slightly up as well, again, explainable by the higher alpha damage. However, you are bloody slow! I don't even know how it is possible that it goes at 32 kilometers an hour. It is unbelievably slow. And remember, again, we don't have access to field mods. If we max it out and we put a turbo, which we are only ever going to get in the standard slot without anything else, because even if you did have the field mods, there's not a slot bonus for it. You go at 36. But okay, Max, calm down. Maybe if we then just put everything else in, let's go for vents, let's go ahead, put in a gun rammer. You know, this tank looks okay now. 3,200 DPM, 0.30 accuracy, good aim time. Reload time is slightly long, but again, to be expected with that alpha damage, which then makes up for the DPM. And the view range is very, very nice. Stationary camo, a little bit down from the previous tanks, but overall fine. And if you do go ahead and get all the field mods, you even have a field mod which allows you to then get plus 5% concealment at the sacrifice for your top reverse speed. It's not all bad news on this tank. Yeah, the problem with this tank though is the speed. And the other problem is that the rest of the tank isn't exceptional. The Tortoise is slow. My God, it is slow. However, the gun is phenomenal. And it's fair enough. You may look at this tank and say, well, okay, it's 36 miles an hour. You can get into position and just snipe. Good luck doing that with 0.3 accuracy. I mean, even if you were to remove the vents and go with IAU, it goes down to 0.29. And then, God forbid, you remove the turbo and then put in vents, you go down to 0.28. And 0.28 isn't horrible, but it's not pinpoint accurate at, say, like 500 meters away. But this number is going to be times 5 at 500 meters. And obviously at 300 meters, it'll be times 3. So I have a real hard time trying to recommend this tank purely because of the speed. If this tank went at 35 kilometers an hour, maybe 36, maybe it wouldn't be that bad. Because if you whack a turbo on it, you go at 40 kilometers an hour. That's not awful. But 32, even with a turbo at 36, that is slow. And the armor doesn't even really make up for it either. Because the upper superstructure is all 300mm thick. Very, very good. Until you meet someone that has that pen in heat rounds or higher. And quite a lot of people do have that. Not to mention how awkward it is because you are a rear-mounted tank and you have all of this exposed at the front, which is, well, 240 to 250, and the lower plate being here 120. One word of warning though, don't go too low down because the lower plate is an auto ricochet for anything with AP or APCR. But apart from that, yes, if this thing is fully hold down against tier 7s or tier 8s, absolutely broken. You can happily brawl, nothing is going to really pen you, you can just laugh at them. But in your own tier and higher, pretty much everything will pen you without a problem. So honestly, if I'm going to give it a rating, it's going to be like a 6 out of 10. The reason being that it's not lower than that is because of the gun. The gun's penetration and reload time and DPM is really, really good. It's not like you can't make this tank work. It's just that it's so awkward to play with. And finally, moving up to the tier 10, the Hori 3. Now, those of you that have watched my streams and know me, I have a hard time with this tank. Me, personally, I don't enjoy this gun. However, I'm pretty sure that is just a me problem. And maybe my account is cursed. But everybody else swears by this gun. And honestly, when the gun does work, it is amazing. It's just that for me, more times than not, the gun really doesn't work. However, I'm going to be as objective as possible with this tank. So let's quickly load it into TanksGG and have a little look at it. By default, 2.8k DPM, amazing. 400 base view range, amazing. 35 top speed, 0.33 accuracy, fine, considering this is base, remember. I mean, it's not quite base because I have effective on, so this is as if it was 100% crew with no perks. 2000 health, really, really good. you go up from the 1,800, which I didn't really mention on the Hori 2, or the Hori 1, sorry, into the Hori 3 having 2,000. I really wish they would just name them Hori 1, 2, 3. It would have been so much easier, wouldn't it? But yes, the Hori 1, which is the tier 9, has 1,800 health, and now this has 2,000 health. So it's really very, very good. But honestly, the main drawback for this tank is the top speed. And the biggest issue that I have with this tank is that you only increase the top speed once you go through every single field mod and reach the 8th one. Because once you do, you get plus 4 kilometers an hour to the top speed. And if you were to go ahead and then put on a bounty turbo, because let's face it, we're at tier 10 now, people are probably using bounty stuff, 44 top speed, which is more than good enough for getting around the map and doing what you need to do. If you then go ahead and add on the crew skills and then the food, and yes, I am well aware this hasn't been updated to the new crew skills. They should act similarly. Okay, yes, we don't have engineer, for example, that would increase the top speed by 1 kilometer an hour, but this will do everything you need to really see properly still. It's fine. And then you have like kind of two choices where you, in my opinion, just go gun rammer and then vents. I wouldn't even bother with hardening on this tank because even though that people swear down by this armor, I am telling you right now, this tank doesn't have armor. If we then max out the crew skills, we go left, obviously, for the first one, and then we go right for the aim circle size reduction, and then the view range increase, and then also for the 7th one, we'll go for concealment, I believe, and then it's looking very, very good. 3,500 DPM, which is amazing. 0.29 dispersion, again, very, very good. Although it would be nicer to have it go down a little bit more, but if you are on sniping maps, you could always pick a secondary loadout with IAU, maybe dropping out the turbo. So not the end of the world. I believe it goes all the way down to 0.26. Yes, it goes all the way down to 0.26. So actually, that's fine if you are on a sniping map. 11.8 second reload time, good enough aim time, very, very good top speed. Even on soft terrain, you still got 41, which is very good indeed. And you have 476 meters view range. Although your camo rating is not really that great. You're actually kind of a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter than the Hori 1, even though that gets more camo than you, which is a bit weird. But by far, the creme de la creme of this vehicle is the ammo choices that you get given. The standard round is 305 millimeters of AP pen. Shell velocity isn't that great, 980. Obviously, with the new perk, you can increase that slightly. But the best thing is the premium round. The premium round is not quite as good as 420 heat, but I would say for more times than not, I would rather have this premium round than the Jagdpanzer's 420 heat, because the premium round is 360 millimeters of AP pen, which, remember, it will normalize a lot better. And to show you exactly what I'm talking about, this is the 279E against itself firing AP rounds. This is the 279E against itself firing heat rounds with 320 pen. Decent heat rounds. This is the Hori 3 against the 279 using its standard rounds. As you can see, even if it's angled up a little bit, it still goes straight through. Then this is the Hori 3 with the premium round. That is solid green. If you bounce this, you're the unluckiest person alive because you have a 99.1% chance of penning. The guy would have to literally be up a wall above you for you not to be able to pen him. So it's just funny, honestly, with the 360 AP, and that is a reason why a lot of people shoot nothing but the 360 AP. Remember, it's an AP round for the standard round and an AP round for the premium round, so if they have the credits, they're gonna be firing the better round, especially as the shell then just goes faster as well. So really, if you don't pen something with this round, it truly is just a skill issue. But let's go ahead and look at the armor very, very quickly. And the reason why I say that it doesn't really have armor. Remember how with the Hori 1 at tier 9, I said that it doesn't really have armor against its own tier and higher. Well, this is now a tier higher. It's going to see itself, so its own tier, and it's going to see tier 9s, obviously, and it hasn't improved. So it's still 300 pen. And yes, this is well sloped at the front here, which you will get some ricochets off if they're using APCR or something like that, and you're at a very, very weird angle. However, most people, They're going to have 300 or above heat rounds. They're going to have above that for APCR rounds. APCR rounds will struggle with a little bit more, but most of the tanks that you're going to meet, they'll just go absolutely straight through you. I know a lot of people say that it can be used on the front line, but in my opinion, I wouldn't want to fight this on the front line unless I really had to. I would rather have this being a support tank where I can just put shots in around a safe distance, maybe 200, 300 meters away, and then I can quickly go back behind cover. And if I am on the front line, then I'm putting a shot in and quickly retreating. I'm not going to sit there, hold down or whatever. Anyway, as we always do, let's go ahead and play one game in the Hori 3 just to show you a little bit of what it's all about. So you join me on El Halluf, and we are going to be going up to the sniping corner. I need to be a little bit aware, obviously, of this Hawk 30, because anybody at the very back will be able to shoot us as we're crossing this. One thing that I forgot to mention, or I should say, save to the people that didn't skip off, this entire line does take a fair amount of module damage, especially considering going from tier 8 to the tier 10. It does like to take a fair amount of module damage. You will sometimes just be taking fuel tank after fuel tank and an engine getting knocked out, ammo racked, whatever it might be. You will take a lot of damage to the modules over this. So that is something that you need to watch out for. Again, because of how this tank is, I wouldn't recommend that you take like improved config or something like that, because there's too many other factors or equipment choices that are just better than that. So I don't think it's needing that, but you need to watch out for that. At the moment, we're just being patient. We don't really need to push anything right now. All we need to do is just be a little bit patient. Might actually just peek this so that if someone does peek, I can then take a shot at them. Oh, I wasn't quite ready for that. Very annoying. Although it is only an E50, which he doesn't really have the penetration for my superstructure. So it is something that I could go hold down against. However, he has more than enough gun depression to be able to go shoot my upper hull. So it's probably not really worth the risk. It is quite nice that we did get a nice 700 alpha into the concept file as it was running, which means that then the 121B, or sorry, the 121B? The concept 1B can then have a much better time at trying to deal with him. Absolutely useless trades against that. Oh, and he pens that anyway. Okay. This is what I mean. This tank just doesn't have armor if they can see your hull. Like, it's so awkward to play on these types of ridgeline where you can't get close, you can't go hold down. It's just super annoying to play with. So you're just stuck in this kind of perpetual I can't do anything kind of mentality where there's nowhere that you can actually go to take shots at people. I can actually overmatch that, but I can go straight through him on the turret there. Now that this guy is dead, this is actually providing us with a very nice hold down against the well, both the E50 and this guy. If he goes forwards a little bit more, I should be able to shoot him. Or maybe I could just maybe move this a little bit to give me a better angle. That seems to be a much better angle that I'm at. Did we win the other side of the map? I mean, it looks like we might win this side, which is very good, but I'm not so sure about the other side. And that can be a very big issue for us. So let's see. We'll push up. We'll see if we can get a shot on this guy. Do we have gun depression? Only just. We have to go over a lot to be able to get that. The concept 5 is going there. The camera angle is doing my head in. This 60p has made a mistake of pushing up. He's probably going to die to the E3 in a second. And we can finish this guy off before he finishes off our 60 TP. We saw him coming, so, I mean, that was just a dumb peek. Almost as dumb as my peek earlier against the Bizonte, to be fair. Almost, not quite. Let's actually see if we can shoot anybody that's over this way. Ah, the 416's actually moved. Okay. Well, we kind of won this side. Do we want to go and try and secure the base? I mean, the carry and the Leo 1 are probably more than capable of dealing with a phase 1 and a one-shot Hawk 30. It's just whether or not the others have also ventured that way. I'll tell you what, let's move back around this way, and then we'll go for a better angle on people that are across the map as well. Maybe if we go to around about the F4, F3 region. I'm going to load the 360 AP, because if this guy is hold down, this will make sure that I can go straight through him. Load a hee round for Mr. Scorpion. He's just behind cover though, so we don't manage to hit him. Hopefully the E50 doesn't shoot us. We will load the 360 AP again. Go on, peek up. If he does peek, we stand a very, very good chance of penning him. As long as we don't hit the gun or go super wide of the turret or something like that. Phase 1 has actually moved all the way around. Okay. Well, that is a... that is interesting. If this carry puts one shot in, at least, we can then one-shot him. Finish him off, go on. We just need to keep pushing forwards here. Why has the carry not shot him? That's what I don't get. Why has the carry not just killed him? Okay, back to AP rounds for the normal run. Normal AP rounds is what I'm trying to say. I mean, we're only at 3,000 damage, which is really not that great. You know, for tier 10, you want to run about 4,000. 3.8 now though, that's not bad. K91 PT, I'm not too sure what health he's on. They should be able to deal with an E3. I am slightly worried if we get spotted and then shot at by this, then the E50 will be able to shoot us as well in a crossfire, so I'm very, very cautious of that fact. But I'm also cautious of the fact that the K91 PT might not be even facing this way. He could be up there, shooting across there, just in case people come down to try and rush the E50, which is what I would expect him to do. So we're going to actually push across this. It's a risky play, but we're going to see how this ends up. Okay, approaching here. I don't want to be hugging this just in case he's on the ridgeline. And then, I mean, he wouldn't be on the ridgeline because we would have probably been spotted before this. But just in case he is, we're going to be backing off us slightly. We are incredibly slow going up this. But yeah, so we don't go into proxy range is what we are making sure we're doing right now. So apparently he's at the back there. I don't know whether that's the E50 who could be back there, or if it's the K91 that's pushed back there. I guess we're about to find out. The K91 could have also gone all the way back here for whatever reason, but I doubt that. Let's see, is Mr. K91 still here? Yes, he is. We can put one into him. Probably should have gone for the track, but that's absolutely fine, to be honest. Again, with the module damage, we need to high roll this. We do not high roll. We make him bounce though, which is really, really good. And then we just angle as much as we can. And finish him off. Very, very nice. We're up to 5.4k. We are, however, now a one-shot for the E50, which is not good. Let's see if we can make sure we kill this E3 for our team though. Nice. Get him out of the game. And now what we're going to do... Didn't really want to peek that just in case, because he would have been reloaded before me. Does he pen this? Oh, okay. We hit the rock and we go all the way up to the sky. Very cool. He does pen it. He does pen it. So not too bad. 5 kills, first class. Definitely not insane game, but I think that it showed you enough about the Halluf 3. Side armor is awful. Upper hull is really not that great unless you are above someone, and the superstructure is good unless you're then facing people that have more than enough pen. I'm actually interested to see where he did actually connect with me on this final shot. Wow. Okay. But yeah, the Halluf 3, it is one of the best tank destroyers at tier 10. I don't vibe with it as much as some other tanks. Like for me, I just prefer like the Jagdpanzer 100 because I control people with the 45-degree angle, but it is a very, very good tank, and you definitely can't say that it's not. However, you do need to get the top field mod to be able to make this thing really good, and that can sometimes sway your, opinion of the tank. If you have to get all the field mods to make the tank good, is it really that good? Because in my opinion, this tank is way too slow until you do get that last field mod. But that's the Halluf 3. If I'm going to give this tank a rating, it's going to be like an 8 or maybe a 9 out of 10. Probably sway more to the 8 because it is a little bit more unforgiving. So the skill cap is a lot higher than say something like a Jagdpanzer 100. But yeah, a solid 8 out of 10 vehicle. The rest of the line though, that's up for you to decide whether or not it's worth the grind. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'll see you all in the next one.